Hello everyone, welcome back to Reddo Reads. Today we have r/MaliciousCompliance. If you want me to cover some specific subreddit in the next video, leave it in the comments. You sure you want your money? Fine, you're gonna get every penny. This isn't my story, it was a close friend of a friend. I am not sure how I never thought about sharing it, as it is one of the best malicious compliance stories I have ever heard. There is also quite a bit of background here, mostly to explain old tech. This guy, we'll call him G, was pretty wealthy. Dude had a nepo job where he worked in a factory fixing the machinery, which almost literally never broke. Someone always had to be on duty to be ready for repairs, so he got all kinds of overtime and was being paid almost $75 per hour in the early 2000s. To give you an idea of the kind of money he was making and how he didn't care, he spent around most whole days sitting around watching movies on a personal laptop that he had spent over $2,000 on and just left it at his desk. If he had a call to the floor, it wouldn't take him more than an hour, and that would happen maybe 3 times in a week. Holidays were 2.5 times pay, and he worked every one of them. This guy was a bit of a tech nerd, and he got an ISDN account as soon as it came out. For you younglings, or folks who weren't savvy at the time, ISDN was basically 2 56.6 kbps modems smooshed together. This was back when 56.6K was as good as it got for residential, and you could still pay for slower. So fast AF for its day. Back in the days of dial-up, the dark ages, some services would be paid by the minute of usage in addition to your monthly bill, and that's how this worked. Also, because dial-up was literal and using existing infrastructure, you could take your modem with you and use it somewhere else by logging into your account from a new location and dialing the closest number to you. This was also back in the day of long-distance chargers. Now for the actual story. G just got his ISDN modem and after a day or so took it to his brother's house, one town over, to show him how fast it was. And after they played around on the internet for a bit, G had to go to work and he would be doing some long shifts for the next couple of days. So his brother asked to borrow his modem, which G said was fine. I don't understand exactly how it happened, but his brother had signed into a long-distance number and then forgot to shut the connection down. And then G got his first month's bill. It was over $14,000! He immediately called the service provider and explained the situation, and they basically told him, "You signed a contract. Sucks to suck, we want our money." He relented and set up a payment plan. He would also be required to keep the contract going until the bill was fully paid. Now, if you've never even heard of ISDN, even if you're older than 30, I don't blame you. This was a very short-lived technology and was replaced by DSL just a couple years later, but unlike ISDN, DSL required new infrastructure, and for some reason I do not fully understand, but I have guessed it's probably the way some important switch on the service provider's network was set up. The two services could not coexist in the same small region. Regions the size of a neighborhood. And G lived in a pretty nice neighborhood, not mansions, but upper middle class. The best neighborhood our small town had to offer, in fact. And people just wanted DSL. It was the first time the internet was getting close to recognizable as it is today, because it was so much faster than what was previously available. The folks in this neighborhood wanted those speeds and did not like being told that they couldn't have it. So, service provider calls up G and explained the situation and offered to waive the remaining amount of the bill. G told them the whole bill was bullcrap and asked if they would refund what he had already paid, but they just told him to go F himself. Cue malicious compliance. G tells them he has a contract and points out that they are obligated to fulfill their end of the contract and he will be paying his bill in full, and hung up. He keeps paying. Service provider keeps getting calls from more customers wanting DSL and folks who had previously called calling back more and more irate. G gets another call, then another, until service provider decides to just tell people exactly who is responsible for their neighborhood's lack of DSL service. His neighbors get loose on him. But does G care? Not at all. Just keeps paying his bill. This went on for more than a year. Eventually, service provider just decided to get rid of ISDN completely, as it was a legitimately outdated technology, and did forgive the remainder of G's bill since they weren't fulfilling their end of the contract. But the whole thing was just wonderful. I don't like this story. It was not very neighborly of G to act like that. He was offered to resolve the situation, but no. He had to be a bot and made his whole neighborhood suffer. I don't like it. Guys, we got to 246 subscribers! What a beautiful number! I would be so incredibly happy if we could get to 250 subscribers soon, because it is 250,000. Sounds great, right? So please subscribe, you will make my day, and come back tomorrow. I thought I mastered malicious compliance, then my wife showed me how it's really done. For this story, you need to know that I am the kind of person who will go a great distance for a good laugh, as you will see below. I love this story and will tell it every once in a while, even though it has been more than 20 years. I live in the US and I own an IT support company. Many years ago, I used a cell phone company named Nextel. They had this great push-to-talk feature that turned your phone into a walkie-talkie, which was perfect for communicating with coworkers in my IT work. However, their customer service was a nightmare. Anytime I needed to contact them, it would take at least 30-40 minutes on hold. Eventually, I had to switch to a cheaper service, which meant getting a new number. Now you can port your number to a new carrier, but back then you had to change numbers if you switched carriers. I cancelled all the phones on our plan except for mine, which I downgraded to an emergency plan costing about $10 a month. I left the old phone plugged in at my office and set my voicemail message to instruct callers of my new number. The phone just sat next to my desk on a shelf, plugged into a charger so that I could see if anyone called. I could also hear the phone make a sound when it disconnected from the cellular network, and then a different sound when it connected to the cellular network. It connected and disconnected constantly there in my office. I would estimate that it only stayed connected to the network about 50% of the time. After 6 months, I decided to cancel it. I had to wait on hold for the customary 30 to 40 minutes just to cancel my service. After telling the service rep that I was always dropping off the network and that I had already switched services, they verified the service problems on my account and cancelled my entire plan. I wasn't under any contract at the time, so there was no problem cancelling my service with Nextel. As expected, I got my final bill. It was somewhere around $10 since it was my monthly plan, just the emergency plan, and I didn't make any phone calls. I paid the bill and was happy to be done with that carrier. Then, the next month, I got a bill for 4 cents. Yes, just 4 cents! I figured it was a clerical error and ignored it, expecting them to write it off. But no, each month another bill for 4 cents arrived. It was incredulous. I checked the postmark and saw that the postage to send me the bill was costing them 10 times more than the bill itself. And they kept sending the bill every month. I could have paid the bill, but it seemed ridiculous to write a check for 4 cents and spend more on a stamp. After 6 months, I finally had enough and decided on some very petty malicious compliance. I decided to invest the 40 minutes on hold to call Nextel to work this out. By golly, if they wanted my 4 cents, I would give them my 4 cents. I planned to wait on hold for 40 minutes and pay the 4 cents with a credit card, knowing it would cost them more in fees. I told my wife about my plan, thinking it was the perfect malicious compliance story, But my wife, the true master of malicious compliance, suggested even better idea. Call and ask if I could make payments on the 4 cents, splitting it into 2 payments on my credit card. OMG! I was in the presence of malicious royalty. I called, waited on hold for 40-45 minutes, and finally got through to a representative. The representative sounded like one of those airport terminal attendants who act like they are checking your reservations, but instead they are writing a Stephen King-length novel. I could hear the clickety-clackety sound of the keyboard. The female representative was constantly typing as I explained that I had cancelled my service, but kept getting the final bill and proposed making payments. The representative, typing away, said she'd look up my account. As she typed away at her keyboard, I explained that I had gotten the final bill and that I would like to set up a payment plan to take care of the outstanding balance. I told her that I would like to pay half on my credit card today and pay the remaining half the following month. She was agreeing with me and typing away when suddenly she stopped typing and went quiet. "Sir," she said. "Yes," I replied. "Are you aware of the balance amount?" "Yes," I said. "4 cents?" she said. "Yes," I said. "I figured you really wanted those 4 cents because you keep spending all this postage to send me bills each month, so I am just calling you to take care of it." After a brief silence, I heard the clickety-clack of the keyboard again, and she said that I would not have to worry about the balance because she was writing it off. I insisted on giving my credit card for the first half of the payment, but she firmly dismissed it and assured me that I wouldn't get any more bills. My wife's suggestion turned a simple prank into a masterpiece of malicious compliance. I may be good at it, but my wife is on another level. And you really have to want to do malicious compliance to wait on hold for 40 minutes. True! If I were OP, this story would never happen. Because, gee, just the thought of waiting 45 minutes on hold really turns me down. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. You can also watch this awesome video or that awesome playlist. See you next time!